Lululemon is now in a very public fight with its own founder, and the outcome could shape the future of one of the biggest names in athletic apparel. The company's board has accused founder Chip Wilson of being misguided, stuck in outdated thinking, and burdened by serious conflicts of interest. Wilson has fired back by saying the board is the one destroying the business he built. In just a few weeks, shareholders will decide which side they believe. To understand why this matters, it helps to start with who Chip Wilson is and why his voice still carries weight. Wilson founded Lululemon in Vancouver in 1998 and helped define the premium yoga and athletic wear category long before that market became crowded. He stepped down as chief executive in 2005 and later left the board in 2015 after a series of controversies, but even without any formal role, he has remained deeply tied to the company through his ownership stake. He is still Lululemon's largest individual shareholder, with roughly 9% of the stock, which means he is far more than just a former founder complaining from the sidelines. He has real influence, and now he is trying to use it. Wilson has been criticizing Lululemon publicly for years, but this has escalated into something much more serious, a proxy fight. In a proxy battle, shareholders are effectively asked to choose between competing visions for the company, usually through a vote on board seats. That is what is happening here. Wilson argues that Lululemon has drifted away from the identity that made it successful. In his view, management has prioritized short-term revenue and expansion tactics over the careful protection of the brand. To push for change, he has put forward 3 nominees for the board to challenge the company's own slate. On June 25, shareholders will vote, and the result will come down to whether investors think Wilson is sounding the alarm at the right time or simply trying to regain influence over a company that has outgrown him. Wilson's argument centers on the idea that Lululemon was once a focused, premium brand with a clear point of view, and that management has diluted that identity. His most visible example is the company's 2024 Disney collaboration, branded as Happily Ever Active. The collection featured Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse on Lululemon products, including Align leggings, one of the company's signature items. Those leggings are central to the Lululemon brand, known for their premium pricing and strong margins, so for Wilson, the symbolism matters. His point is simple. A high-end athletic brand should not be putting cartoon characters on $118 leggings if it wants to preserve its premium image. That criticism was not entirely isolated. At the time, at least one analyst at Jefferies questioned how the partnership fit with Lululemon's brand positioning. Wilson and others also drew attention to the fact that then Chief Executive Calvin McDonald served on Disney's board, raising the question of whether the deal was driven by strategic fit or by executive relationships. That does not prove anything improper on its own, but in a board fight, optics matter. Wilson is using this example to argue that management is making decisions that may look exciting in the short run, yet weaken the brand over time. He also points to several other strategic bets that he considers mistakes. One is footwear. Lululemon entered shoes in a bigger way in recent years, trying to expand beyond apparel into a category dominated by giants like Nike, Adidas, and Hoka. Another is self-care, the company's beauty and personal care line, which was eventually discontinued. He also criticizes the company's push into smaller accessories and adjacent categories that, in his view, distract from the core business rather than strengthen it. Whether each of those moves was a total failure is debatable, but the larger point Wilson is making is that Lululemon has been chasing expansion instead of refining the brand that made it special. He has also attacked the leadership question directly. The hiring of Heidi O'Neill, a longtime Nike executive, is another flashpoint for him. Wilson's criticism is that Nike, despite its scale and brand power, has been struggling with slowing growth, inventory issues, and pressure from changing consumer habits. His argument is that bringing in a veteran of a mass-market sportswear giant does not obviously solve the problems of a premium, lifestyle-driven brand like Lululemon. In other words, he thinks the company is looking in the wrong place for its turnaround. Some of the numbers help explain why his message may be resonating. Lululemon enjoyed a remarkable rise over the last decade, but more recently, growth has slowed. The company has warned of pressure on North American demand, and margins have come under strain. Competition has intensified, especially from brands like Viore and Alo Yoga, both of which have gained visibility with affluent consumers looking for athletic wear that feels premium but still fresh. In the market, investors have clearly become more skeptical. The stock has fallen sharply from prior highs, and concerns about market share losses and brand fatigue have become harder to dismiss. When a stock that once looked unstoppable begins to stall, founders often find it easier to argue that the company has lost its way. But that is only one side of the story. Lululemon's current leadership and board say Wilson is rewriting history and ignoring just how much the company has grown without him. Their core argument is that while recent performance has been disappointing, the broader record is still strong. Over roughly the past decade, annual revenue expanded from around $2 billion to more than $10 billion, according to the company's public financial reporting. That is not a trivial achievement. Lululemon evolved from a relatively niche yoga apparel company into a global athletic wear player with a significant men's business, international expansion, and direct-to-consumer strength. Management argues that this scale-up happened under the current era of leadership, not under Wilson's direct involvement. The company also says Wilson lacks the standing to critique day-to-day decisions because he has not run Lululemon in many years, and because the company he once led was far smaller and simpler than the one that exists now. Running a global retailer with billions in revenue, a major e-commerce operation, supply chain complexity, and expansion across geographies is very different from building an emerging brand in its early years. In the board's telling, Wilson is acting like an armchair quarterback, second-guessing management from the outside while offering a nostalgic version of the brand that may not be realistic in a more competitive industry. Then there is the personal and governance dimension. Lululemon has argued that Wilson has harmed the company's reputation through years of public criticism and controversial comments. That matters because founders can be powerful symbols for a brand and not always in a positive way. Wilson's relationship with the company became strained long ago, especially after his 2013 remarks about women's bodies drew widespread backlash. That controversy played a major role in his eventual separation from the company's leadership structure. So when management says this fight is not just about strategy, but also about judgment, they are asking shareholders to remember that history. The company's strongest attack on Wilson may be the conflict of interest issue. Wilson has acknowledged advising both Viore and Alo Yoga, two brands widely seen as direct competitors to Lululemon in premium activewear. Reports have also indicated that he has invested in at least one other competitor. From a governance standpoint, that is a serious vulnerability in his campaign. It allows the board to argue that Wilson is not simply a concerned founder trying to save the brand. He may also be aligned, at least in part, with companies that benefit if Lululemon stumbles. Even if his concerns are sincere, shareholders have to ask whether his incentives are fully aligned with theirs. So what is this vote really about? It is about more than one collaboration, one executive hire, or even one bad stretch for the stock. It is a referendum on whether Lululemon's recent struggles are a temporary setback after years of impressive growth or evidence of a deeper loss of brand discipline. It is also a test of how much credibility a founder retains after leaving, especially when that founder still owns a large stake but also carries baggage and outside ties. If investors believe Lululemon simply needs patience, better execution, and time to recover from a difficult period, they are likely to back the board. If they believe the company has drifted too far from its premium identity and needs sharper oversight at the top, they may side with Wilson's nominees. Either way, the June 25th vote will send a message not just about this company, but about a broader question in corporate America. When a founder says the brand has lost its soul, should shareholders listen or move on? That is why this fight is so fascinating. Chip Wilson is trying to make a comeback at the company he created, but he is doing it as a deeply polarizing figure. The board is defending its record by pointing to a decade of growth and scale, but it also has to explain why momentum has faded so badly. In the end, shareholders will decide whether the future of Lululemon lies with the leadership that built it into a global powerhouse or with the founder who says that same leadership is now tearing it apart.